Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is All Down the Line, where we are going to chat about the publishing process from beginning to end and stuff in the middle. And let's just go around and introduce ourselves and jump in. My name is Karen. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on Twitter while it still exists at K12s and other social medias that will possibly also be banned soon. I usually work as a copy editor and editor for RPGs, and but we're going to kind of, as we talk about the context, because we have all worked on the same project here, we're going to be talking a little bit about Improv for Gamers Second Edition, which I wrote, available now. And something that I've worked on recently that I'm super excited about as an editor was the Monster of the Week Codex of Worlds supplement that just came out. It was very cool. So I'm going to just toss it to someone else. Trivia, how's it going?
Hi, it's going great. So excited to be on this panel with everyone. My name is Trivia Fox. I go by no pronouns or they pronouns. And usually in tabletop, I am an art director. So it's my job to put all the art in the book with a great field of artists. So where you can find me on social media, as long as it exists, is Dark Deer Trivia on Twitter. And something I recently worked on is a project that I believe is coming to Kickstarter soon. It's Girl by Moonlight, which is an exciting magical girl game, as well as Apocalypse Keys, which you can get now. So, and I'll throw it to Chris.
I'm also really happy to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Cris Viana, she, her pronouns. I'm a graphic designer here in Brazil, and I specialize myself in book layouts and typography. And although I have worked with lots of different kinds of books, like technical books, novels, and learning books, I really loved to work with TTRPGs. And now I am lead graphic designer at Evil Hat and working with other amazing TTRPG products as Confluence from Publishing Goblin and Guns Blazing from Ahadi Productions, that is now on Kickstarter. And now I'm fully working with TTRPGs. Woo! And I'm really happy to be with these folks here because we worked together, and some of them I didn't had the opportunity to see in real digital live persons. We are just this people on emails exchanging information.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to talk about the Improv for Gamers. That is a book that is really special to me because it was the first work I did with Evil Hat. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Jackie?
Oh, hi everybody. I'm Jackie. My pronouns are he, they, and you can. And as long as Twitter is still not entirely on fire, it's about 90% on fire. So it hasn't reached that final threshold
This
yet.
is fine.
So yeah, it's just fine. It's just fine. It's just worse than France right now. That's all. You can find me on most social media at Death by Mage. That is where you'll always find me. I'm excited to be here because Improv for Gamers was also one of the first jobs I did with Evil Head officially. So that was really great. I did a couple of proofreadings for them before, and I also did proofreading for Codex of Worlds that Karen did the editing for. So that was a lot of fun and a lot of pleasure to be back on. I am now currently the managing editor for the Fallout line for Betwe's Entertainment. So basically, you will see my name probably in the next coming up products. The one we just recently announced coming soon is Winter of Adam, which I was originally hired as a game designer for, and then several months later, I came in as their official editor. So that's an awkward place to be, which we'll talk about in the pipeline because it's a really weird place for that. But yeah, that is where I am now, and I still do editing. Freelance, and I also do some writing on the side as well. So I'm really excited to be back here again with Karen and on this panel, these awesome people, because I have only seen their names, I've seen their socials every once in a while, but I never got to hang out with any of them. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. So Improv Game was such a fun project to work on, and we are going to kind of just use that as an example that we can specifically name. We might talk about other projects and not name them, you know, for various reasons, for NDAs or just common courtesy if we have a complaint. But yeah, so we're going to kind of just explain from start to finish what to expect and like some of our experiences in all of those different roles, because we've kind of been in different parts of the whole thing. I made a slide that I'm very proud of that I would like to share with you that I checked in with Sean and I was like, there's like 6 steps to this whole process with Evil Hat, right? And he's like, there's 22. With a lot of asterisks because there might be more. So I'm hoping that our stream moderator can switch over to my screen share any second now to show us the slide. I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe not. Oh no. Anyways, well, I'll just keep talking. And maybe they'll come over and change it. So so there's 22 stages from writing, system development. We will do like a sensitivity reading very early on, like before going any further, do revisions on that. Then it goes to playtest. We edit the playtest. We do more sensitivity reading. There it is. There's my slide.
Thank you.
We do more playtesting. Then we lay it out and actually kind of send it to people. Then we will often do markup, which is when the editor will go through the document and put everything in little like HTML markups. So when we import it into InDesign, it has all the formatting. That's always a fun thing to do. And I do mean that like somewhat sincerely. It is fun to kind of put it all in order. Like as an editor, I like the organization of it. And then we have art inventory, art order, art acquisition, adding the art to the layout, proofreading, indexing, more revisions, final look, and then it's definitely, absolutely, totally done, hopefully. And Sean did want to clarify many notes that I'm not going to read because it was many paragraphs of this is just the like production. This doesn't include any marketing. You know, and a lot of these things are done out of order, are done at the same time, are repeated. But this is kind of what you can expect, at least from the Evil Hat process. But I would love to hear from people, other experiences that you've had with other publishers, because again, this is an example of what to expect from Evil Hat, but different publishers have their own way of doing things. So does anyone feel like kind of sharing their own experience? I'll just toss it out to anybody.
I can start if you want.
Yeah.
So not to take too much into for like my experiences with Modiphius, like I will say that for the most part, like a lot of our editing and our layout and art order kind of happens simultaneously, just because we want to be as efficient as possible with our time. So usually what will happen is once the draft has been reached its revision, that's when we will be submitting that for approvals, because since I'm working for we do things for Fallout, Bethesda has to go through an approvals process. So we usually will also start doing an art order before that, so that we can submit the artwork and the word text to Bethesda, so that they can approve it as well. And there's usually, and then there'll be a layout version that we send out again, so they can assess it one last time, because text alone looks different than the layout. So they always want to take another look at that as well. So for us, we have like a couple more smaller steps in between. But that's usually how but sometimes it's not uncommon for some, I guess, publishers I've worked with, that where they do the editing and the art order very simultaneously, because since the text is pretty much mostly approved, they'll go, okay, we can start doing the art orders, because those usually take more time. And then by the time the final copy edits are done, and then getting ready for preliminary layout, then the art orders can start coming in, the commission art's coming in, and they can start putting that together, and then they can make that all nice before it's reviewed and then sent for proofreading.
I had a really similar experience at my previous position with Renegade Games, where we're working on a ton of books at the same time. So once the text has been at least like it's settled, then we start doing the art order. And what's interesting there is having to kind of figure out what kind of art to commission that isn't going to completely mess up the layout. So you have to be really proactive about like, okay, this needs to not face a certain direction. This needs to not have, too much coming out from the side. So you have to, warp the text. Like, so that's like the complication that comes from trying to be more efficient in getting them both done at the same time.
Right, because not normally, but if you had it all laid out already, you would say, we need this gap filled. We've adjusted the text and also like gone through and maybe the text is overflowing. And like with Improv for Gamers second edition, something that was really important was having every exercise be a 2-page spread. This was like, it had to be, or a 1-page and a 1-page. So we often had big spaces. We were like, we need art that fills that up very nicely. And sometimes, we kind of just didn't have enough empty space. So you just kind of leave it because you're like, it's too small for art.
The first time I worked on an Evil Hat project, and Fred delivered me the spreadsheet with all of the art slots, I was like, like,
yeah.
So much of the pain. Oh my goodness. So if you can do it this way, it makes it very easy on your art director.
we do that also in for Modiphius for Fallout, because Bethesda gives us an asset library as well. So we have access to like basically these are assets that Bethesda's already approved. That's like, you are allowed to use these artwork. We license them out to you. You're allowed to use them. So we do that. And so we use those materials for like the fill-in and for anything for like considered like, it's like our equivalent of stock art for any self-publisher. It's like the equivalent of using stock art. But then anything else we commission, we always have to kind of keep those ideas in mind. Like, okay, how big do we need this? Like, what kind of, do we need it as a cutout? Does it need to be a full scene? Like, what kind of expectations? So sometimes I have to do the art order. So I have to like do the spreadsheet as well, or contribute to it. So it's nice, though. It's very nice to have that, because even when I have to come in after the proofreader just to do a final check, it's very nice to just cross compare everything. It's like, okay, the art's here, yes, check. It's just like all these nice check mark feel. It's a great dopamine high. It's like, it's so wonderful.
We had something similar when we were doing War of Ashes, because the IP was from Zombie Smith and they had so much gorgeous art. And it was we still asked for some specific things, because we're like, well, we want something that describes a certain setting. And so we would put that back to them to create a couple things. But we also just had a ton of fun going through it all and be like, oh, I want that and that and that and that.
Yes. When I was working on like the Transformers and Power Rangers role-playing games with Renegade, we also had all of those. So before, or while we were like developing a book, I would go through all of that art again and be like, ooh, this one will be good, this one will be good. And it's very nice when you have that big library to trawl through.
Yeah. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, most of the projects I have done so far, the client come to me with the content ready, the text is ready, and the images are done, and like make a book of it. So we have to be a little creative to fill the gaps. So sometimes we will have some places in the book that we have this hole without any kind of content. We don't have any text to place, and we don't have any art to place there. I can be a little creative and create some kind of graphic to fill it, but sometimes it's just a matter to make a piece of it. Like, okay, the whole is going to be a part of this book. I don't have anything to do here. I did my best. It is difficult to the layout artist to do this, but it's the kind of project I don't have how to fix this. But when I saw like how we will have to do this, the books we do the layout and we just say, I need an image here and here and here. I was okay. I don't want to work different now. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it is nice to feel like these are the rails that we're on, and it's all laid out.
yeah. And I'm
Mhm.
working now on a project that's everything is happening at the same time. It is very different to me. It was like I struggled a little bit to see how I could do my work in this kind of environment, but it is really great now because like I can do my work, the layout process from the inside pages with the illustrator by my side. So the person that will do the art can, we could do this kind of spread with this kind of image, and okay, this seems fun. And it is normally I don't have contact with the illustrators and the artists from the book, so it's a different kind of project, and it's been really fun.
Mm-hmm. I'm on a project with another publisher right now where everything's happening at the same time. The writing is happening in chapters that I am editing, and the our project manager sends out a daily email, which is so helpful to remind you of what's due, because every chapter is going through multiple revisions, and those are being reviewed and rewritten, at the same time. So I'm kind of switching back and forth, and then, I'll get a break for a couple of days while the writers are like really working hard to put it all together. And the art acquisition is still happening, and like the layout is still being figured out as they're trying to like do the design of it. It's all happening at once. The Slack channels are a lot of like, what does this look like? And I'm like, I don't have time to look at this.
I know that feeling too.
You don't need my opinion on that, so I'm going to stay out of it. So it's very different, and it's to meet a deadline that they have a really strict deadline, and that's just the way that is working for them. So yeah, it's definitely different places do it in different ways, just depending on what they're used to or when they need it by. I think we can put this overwhelming slide away. Thank you. Yeah. But that is, the whole, I hope you screenshotted it to save it. And again, there's a lot of things that weren't mentioned in there, like marketing. And something, Cris, that you have done for Evil Hat, which is so valuable, was you also made so many assets for the crowdfunding and just for the website and for social media, and that was wonderful. To have all of that. And so that was another part of your job, was creating all of these extra bits with the art that we had at that moment. Because it was second edition, we had the art from the old game, and we were getting art. We had art from the old edition. We're getting art from a different artist because it's like 50% bigger now. We needed more art. What was that like? Is that something that you've done with other publishers as well?
No, I haven't done this with other publishers. And like now I consider there is a part of the process, of the editorial process as a whole. Like I will work in a book and I will work on the marketing. It is great because I am familiar with the kind of images I have and what is the vibe of the game, so I can communicate a little bit better. So for Proof for Gamers, I was hired initially to do the layout for the second edition. And then I was like, let's do some arts for the crowdfunding. Okay. And now we have Becker's Kids doing the promotional for us. So we have some, they ask us to do lots of images so they can check what images will have more engagement in the social medias. So I do lots of stuff with different kinds of colors and different layouts, so they can choose from it. And when I say a lot, it's really a lot, guys. Like 60 different images to send to them, so they can choose which one is the best one. But it's really fun. I can play a lot with the images and the compositions of these contents.
Jackie, as an editor, do you also get involved with the crowdfunding aspect of it if a book is being crowdfunded? Because I have, would often go through and be like, please show me the Kickstarter page before you publish it. Let's not have a typo in there. Like that is part of my package for you.
Yeah, I have offered. I've been asked that before. It's not as often requested of me. Usually, either because somebody else, they'll have like, I know like some of the smaller projects I've worked with, they've had like their own campaign managers, or they had somebody, so they usually have someone else to like look over it better. But I have had to look over a Kickstarter page before and review, and I definitely have sent something along the lines of, this sentence is very, very long, or this needs to be clarified this needs to be consolidated a little bit more. It's a little too chunky for me. I can't handle this.
I love describing a sentence as chunky.
I will excuse. Yeah, thank you. I was like, I'll excuse the misuse of a comma or a semicolon. It's like, but it's like, it gets too long. It's too convoluted. I'm like, please, it's a Kickstarter page. Just make it clear, concise. Don't make this harder for someone who's trying to read this. Because I'm usually, I back a lot of things too. So I'm like, I like to be, just tell me what it is. Don't try to make it fantastical when it doesn't need, or unnecessary. Just tell me what it is, please.
Well, maybe we can go and talk a little bit in a little bit more detail about our roles and responsibilities in general jobs, but also about Improv for Gamers 2nd edition. It's just we all worked on it, and so it seemed like a great thing for us to bond over and get the gang back together again. So even though I am normally an editor, I wrote this one. But we also had a lot of contributors in the 2nd edition, which added even more time to the process. And that's like such an important thing to keep in mind when you have contributors, you have stretch goals. They have their own timelines and availability, and you need to build in the deadlines for them to turn in their work. And that's even more for the project manager to stay on top of. With Improv for Gamers, we didn't have content stretch goals. Like we weren't waiting on like, we'll only publish this if you give us more money. We had that all, but we wanted to pay our contributors more. So that was our stretch goal, is, we will send out additional checks. So that was part of the process in the writing, is I was also reviewing those before we would pass them to Jackie for editing, is I would go through and work with the contributors a little bit and also put it in the general format that I knew it needed to be for the book, in terms of like the steps and the, if there's a call out box or anything like that. And then I had to go back, as the writer, and revise all the text from the 1st edition, because I wanted to update it and make a lot of changes. I ended up, I think, like dropping an exercise because a contributor gave me something that was like, oh, this is way better. So that was my role in there. And it was fun, but definitely having contributors, even for like the small little blurbs, it was a lot to keep tabs on. And we definitely had a lot of little reminder emails. And I know that sometimes other projects can get really held up by trying to get those stretch goals in. But Jackie, what was the editing process like for you?
It was pretty. I remember when because we had a call, Karen, you and I, we had a call. We wanted to talk about like because I asked you like, what do you want out of both my services, but also like, what were you looking for? Like, what was your goals? What were the things you were aiming for, and what were you hoping that the manuscript would look like by the end of this? Because I also had to do a little bit of developmental edits. I also do mostly copy editing because you had all those contributors, so we had to like make a lot of the language be as closely harmonious as we could make them, which is actually a very difficult thing than most people realize. It's a very difficult thing to get many writers to sound very similar in terms of the use of word choices and diction without seemingly like we got rid of their voices entirely. Like it's a very hard skill. It's a very hard skill. So that was one of the main goals that I had to keep in mind for myself when I was working on the manuscript. And the other big ones is, making it clear and concise and the readability, making sure it's because this is supposed to be like a handbook essentially for people to use in their improv sessions or even just in general. So you want to so I always had to keep those things in mind, was like the readability, like that's the thing about an editor. You always want to keep like, what's the end goal of this manuscript? Like what is the end goal that this manuscript is supposed to look like? And so that was a lot of the goals I had to do. And then I remember like for us, Karen, like we had like anytime I had any questions, you were always free to answer them whenever I could. So it was a very smooth process editing for that. I enjoyed it a lot. And I know we did make some changes. We had some exchanges, like conversations about like, okay, do we think this lesson should belong here, or do we need to move this elsewhere? And I know that and that was like the most important thing, was again, like we had to think about the overall goal of what this manuscript was going to look like in the end.
Yeah, we had some questions about like, where should this exercise go? Does it fit better in this chapter or that chapter? Because I was trying to split things up a little bit by focus. And I remember we had, as you were talking about, you know, trying to make things sound the same, but keep everybody's voice, is there was at least one contributor who liked to verb their nouns. And we kind of went back and forth.
I know which one you're talking about. I remember.
Yeah, I was like, that's how he talks, and we're going to keep it because that's like, you know, he says this phrase a lot. It was Marcus Sams talking about how to manage, you know, an online improv and online communication in general and video conferencing. And he said something like, we're just trying to human on the internet. And I was like, no, that has to stay because that's exactly what he says.
Yeah. And that's an important exchange that sometimes even an editor and a project manager or a writer has to have. Sometimes it's like it is one of those things, like, I'm just here to provide suggestions and things. Like, it's not like people sometimes think it's a back and forth, like a war. It's like, no. We're just trying to just do what's best, what we think is best, but it may not always necessarily be the actual best thing. So like when we had those exchanges, we were like, I was like, okay, that's perfectly fine. I was like, because I knew as long as we believed that that's what the right course was, I was fine with that. That was always how I felt.
There's so many things as an editor where you're just like, I actually don't need to fight for this. I just wanted you to know, here's another option. And if you veto it, totally fine. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's your book.
It does not. It does not.
And trivia, I know, because we were trying to find art that looked similar. The original artist wasn't available. And so, and I absolutely love the art that we added, but we were trying to find something that was like, we want it to look like this, but we don't want you to copy it because that wouldn't be your art. So like, why don't you tell us a little bit about the challenge when you're trying to, you know, add new art to something that already has art?
Yeah. So the first edition was all done by one artist, same artist as the cover. And so when we were talking about it initially, it's like, okay, we have all this new art to do. And so I was going through, you know, my head roster of artists that I've worked with in the past. And I'm like, who has like round, you know, like soft and expressive art and works really well with black and white line art. So those were the things I was trying to hit. And one of the artists that I love working with whenever I get the chance is Kanesha, who is the one that we picked. So, you know, when in talking to Kanesha, I was, you know, showing the art that already existed and being like, hey, can you hit this? I'm like, I know you can, but you know, are you interested? Like, does this sound fun? And I know that Kanesha also loves being able to draw like a really broad set of people and very into representation. So it just felt like a really great fit. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. And Karen, you had given me also already like, you know, the list of here's what I'm trying to get out of each image. So we didn't have to, I think, massage that very far with writing the art orders or anything like that. Like, it was already so clear what the intent was. It was a very smooth process.
Yeah, I love when an art director though just explains it better than I do. But that's definitely, if you have something in mind as an author, you want to put that in there when you're at that part of kind of putting together the requests. And a lot of mine were like, I want to capture this specific moment of this specific exercise, and it will look like this. I think with first edition, I actually sent photos. I made my friends pose, and I was like, it looks like that. Like Golden Goose, like it has like certain, you actually like hold your body in specific poses, and I'm a tree as well. And was like, I need to show that. So here's some pictures of people actually doing it as reference. And so that's another thing that you as the designer and writer need to, be willing to contribute to help out. And then the art director can massage it into something that makes more sense for the artist to actually be able to understand what to make.
And I think for most art directors, they love knowing that, because like the whole point of the book, right, is like this complete vision or whatever, of like either not like an ideal or an example game experience. And so like as the writers, I'm sure, and designers, you're all thinking about that the whole time. I want people to tell these kinds of stories. I want these kinds of moments. So being able to say like, hey, here's a moment that I really want to capture makes my job way easier, because I already know that I'm on the right track when I'm writing stuff out. So I love it.
Yeah. I will note, actually, we had two different artists in the first edition. We had a different cover artist, and then Megan Penley did all the interior. But then we asked Megan if she would like to do the cover art for second edition.
Yes,
so she made that one for us because we were like, could you give us a cover and 20 pieces of art? And she's like, I could give you a cover. We're like, we'll take it. We have a question that I think Cris might go to you, which is, are there challenges beyond issues of layout and visual quality when it comes to doing both digital and physical projects? Which is such an important thing, since everything also like comes in a digital version now as a PDF or an ebook, and then there's Roll20 assets and things like that too. So what are some of the challenges for maintaining the quality?
We have to adapt everything to whatever medium we are trying to visually communicate. So sometimes I have to do huge edits to my original layout to make it fit on these other million pieces that I will have to make for any kind of marketing or Roll20. But we have like, when we make a book now, there is one thing that I will add to this graphic that Karen made, that is the digital PDF that we have. We have a process to make it accessible, to make the readers to read the content in a correct way. So we have to do some edits to it's more the final product. We don't see any changes, but for some persons, the people that are going to use a reader to listen to the book, it will have a huge impact. And also we are doing now the EPUB versions that gives more accessibility, because you can access the content and you can make the font bigger or smaller, or make it the background black. So it needs also some kind of adjustments to the book. The EPUB, it's something that I can't have a lot of control in the visual aspect, so it's lost all my work, and we just get to have the content and the beautiful illustration. So thank you all the amazing artists that has been working with us, because I can only have, in some cases, the typography I choose. But like when you open it on a Kindle, you lost this typography as well. But I think that even if my work is lost, my main concern here is the accessibility of the content. So I'm okay with it.
We have two questions that I feel like are more project manager questions. But we can talk about how we can help. One was, can you speak more to production timetables and keeping the project on track? And the other one I think ties into it is, do you have any good tips for dealing with contractors who aren't good at communicating? And fortunately, most of this goes to the project manager. So that's not we don't have to do it. So what we can do, I think, best is just hit our own deadlines and, try to set an example of responding reply all to those check-in emails to see that it is okay if you can't hit a deadline to let people know and just kind of like model the behavior.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think the one advice I can give for project management is just have another form of communications besides just email in case something goes wrong, if you can, because it can happen, and sometimes you need a more direct way to get to them, and that's just like a last resort. And I've done that before, because even for Modifius, like we have a project manager, but I also still have to interact with the freelancers, especially our writers, when I hire them for like our individual projects or smaller projects. So I have to at least have one or two ways to communicate with them. It's like, besides email, what else can I use to contact you in case I need to get a hold of you?
And the for Evil Hat, Sean's like introductory emails are incredible, where it really lays out, here are the deadlines of the project, here's the way that we're communicating, here's what you can expect from us. And so all contractors and everyone involved in the project knows from day one what's going to be expected of them. And I think having that laid out initially helps so much, because then if there is a problem, everyone can point back to that initial communication and be like, this is what we were doing, everyone, right? And sometimes even just sending, a little poke, like an email poke, and reminding people, hey, this is coming up. Where are you at? Like, is there any support I can give you? Like anything, like, do you need to drop part of this and should I find someone else? Those are the types of like trigger phrases that will either have somebody be like, yes, I do need help, or, oh no, I'll get it to you on Monday, in my experience. So not to get into it too much, but
yeah, the do we need to find someone else is a great question. We'll
that's like the nuclear option. Like you hold back on that, because it does take a lot of time and management to get somebody, looped in, and it may delay your project.
Yeah. So as art director, are you the one that's checking in with the artists to get those things in? So you're doing that part of
when working with a bunch of artists, it's super helpful to have like one person that's keeping an eye on that. And so there's a little follow-up question about, is there a tool set beyond email to help manage distinct pieces for writing and editing? And I think that depends on the project manager for sure, but like there's things like Trello, or even just a spreadsheet. Like for art, I do the art order spreadsheet all in one go, and it's got, Fred sets it up, it's beautiful. But as things come in, I mark the whole row green, right? And if anything's in danger, I mark it red. So it's very clear to everyone like what the status of all of those things are.
I think when we get to, at least with Evil Hat, often when we get to it's in a PDF now, it's been laid out, but we still need to do edits, it will often go to a spreadsheet. And because we'll put in the proofreader edits, and then the editor reviews those, enters everything else in. The designer might put in some more changes. Even layout might go in and say, we need to fix this thing. And you have like page number, roughly where it is in the paragraph, what the problem is, how to fix it. And we kind of move to that, as opposed to passing drafts back and forth at that point, because there's so many people working on it.
Yeah.
It depends on the scale too. Because it also depends on the scale. Like I know we've had for like some of our projects, I've worked with some of like the 20 pagers. Like they're not usually as bad, so they can just tell us, just do it on the PDF. If like just do comments on it, and that's just quick for our graphics designers to take care of. But when it's like a 200-page book, it's like, please use a spreadsheet. Please use the spreadsheet.
Yeah,
it's not going to load quick enough for you to find it.
No. So any kind of advice or tips that you would give somebody in your role, or that you would give to others, just like help the process run more smoothly? I will say, I will start, is that it's important for writers to like take a break while your work is in the editing stage. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
If you're making changes that the editor isn't aware of, we're going to have like version errors. Like, make a note if you're like, oh, I want to change this thing. Go ahead and write it down somewhere else when the document is back in your hand, like the one that we are passing back and forth. Put all of your revisions in that, because we really don't want to have version control of the editor working on one thing that's then there's already changes in the other one. There shouldn't be an other one. So take a break. Enjoy not working on your game.
Yeah, it's very true. I know for editors, I think the most important thing is if you're assigned for a specific role, like if you're assigned for developmental editing, copy editing, or proofreading, stick to that particular role, even if you see other things that could probably jive with other overlays. Because I've seen where sometimes it's like, I'll be proofreading and I'm like, and then as I'm proofreading something, I might start copy editing a sentence or a paragraph, and I'm going, no, this is proofreading. Stop what I'm doing. We've already we're at a different stage of editing it at this point. I'm only here for proofreading, so I should only be looking for certain things. So like when you're doing editing, just remind yourself, like, what am I doing? What are the goals? And what is the task you're supposed to be performing? And if it's a glaring issue, you can always raise it to the project manager or to someone who needs to know, like, hey, I know this is not exactly what you hired me for, but just so you know, this does not look great, or this looks a little rough the edges. I don't know if it needs to be corrected or not, but I just want to let you know that this might need some touch up,
And that's super helpful as an editor to get those notes from a proofreader back, because at that point you've looked at something so much you might not have thought about it anymore. But yeah, it is so hard to switch gears, as a proofreader and just be like, no, I'm looking for little things. I'm looking for layout. I'm looking for spelling, and like, you might not find it all. We might not find it all. You might have some typos in your book, and that's okay.
Yeah, it happens to the best of books.
It does. Yeah. It truly does. It truly does.
I'm so superstitious after I work on a book and it comes out and I have it in my hands. I am afraid to open it because I'm afraid I will find it on the first page, because it happened once ages ago, and ever since I've been terrified. Cris, any advice?
For layout artists, I would say, like, creative work needs lots of communications because you are trying to express somebody else's idea. So, and sometimes I used to do this with my Brazilian clients, but I am now doing it every time because I have a different language, a different culture. So I have to get more inside of my client's mind. So I'm always trying to make him a part of my process. Like, let's see some references together. Can you bring me some references that you find that are helpful for me, so we can exchange ideas and like prepare your client to what he's gonna get? Because sometimes you don't have this initial communication, and even if you deliver him or her a beautiful project, this break of the expectation can be a little bit rough on them. Sometimes they even like receive it and have to process what you gave him to see if it fits or not. So I would say, speak more with your clients. Your client will be your best resource in the matter of references to your work.
I think we have one and a final question we'll try to squeeze in, which is, what's one thing that you'd like someone to understand about the publishing workflow that may not be obvious? Oh man, what secret knowledge do we have?
It's that communication, I think, is like communication. The quality of work is great, but like your quality of communication is definitely like what's going to make or break a project. And I think like even lower budget projects, like small indie projects, like communication is the top.
Yeah.
Oh, and Trivia, I realized I didn't pass to you if you had other
Sure.
advice.
Yeah, I'll do them really quick. So my first one is to when you're assigning out work to artists, I found it's really optimal to try to give them things that they're already excited about. So like if somebody only does big, beautiful forest landscapes, like don't give them your mecha stuff unless they also have that in their portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody draws like really beautiful romantic artwork, like don't put them in your Wild West gritty dark fan, like unless they ask for it specifically, right? Like, so that's one of the ways that I try to work within a limited budget is really pairing people with the stuff that they like, because normally that means that it's easier for them. They can work faster on it. Like there'll probably be less reviews, and it helps kind of balance the budget versus their rate sometimes when they know that they can be efficient. So that's how about that's my number one tip. There we go.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for chatting with me on this Saturday. I want to quickly remind people that at 10 past the hour, we have another really cool stream. The title is Toss Your Dice, Not Your Controller, Adapting Your Favorite Video Game to TTRPGs. We will also be kind of popping over to the Discord. If you have further questions and want to chat for a little bit, that's available. But let's go around and just kind of close out for a bit. So, and if there's something else that you're excited about plugging, let's do that now. So my name is Karen. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me at K12s at social medias that are still around. I want to plug something that I have no affiliation. I didn't work on it. I'm just so excited about it. Can I show you guys?
Yes.
It's Heart of the Unicorn, City of Winter.
Yes.
Y'all, this game, it's so cool.
It's beautiful.
It's a scroll. I
backed the Kickstarter too.
It's so pretty. I don't know if you've also looked at things where you're like, I wish I had worked on it. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Please check it out. It's
really
Heart of the
cool.
Unicorn, City of Winter. Very, very lovely RPG that I'm playing right now with some friends. But I will pass it to Cris.
I'm Cris, pronouns she, her. You can find me on Twitter as Cris LV, Cris as is writing here. So come and chat with me and check it out. Guns Blazing is at Kickstarter. See you all.
Jackie.
Hey everybody, I've been Jackie, and you can always find me on any social media at Death by Mage. And I think I know the biggest thing I talked about was Winter of Adam for Fallout for the 2D20 system. I got a couple other projects in the works, but we'll have to. I'll just share them when I can talk about them. And thanks for having me again. It's always been a pleasure. Trivia.
Hello and goodbye. So I'm Trivia. You can find me on Twitter right now at Dark Deer Trivia. Please check out Girl by Moonlight when it goes up on Kickstarter. It's very cool and all the art is beautiful. I'm very biased.
Yes.
And also, if you haven't picked up Apocalypse Keys, you absolutely should.
Yes.
So thank you.
I got the special edition cover. That was so good.
I asked Sean, can I please pay you for 2? Like, I need to have both covers.
We definitely have that with Blades in the Dark. We have both the special edition and the regular one. All right, well, that is our time. Thank you all so much, and thanks to those joining in. And we'll see you on the Discord. We'll see you in stream chats of later streams. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.